Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to see so many people on the line for our webinar today, Attracting Seniors as Clients. I'm your presenter, Paul Kavanagh. I'm a freelance writer and writing coach who teaches realtors in Canada and the US how to attract downsizing seniors with compelling customer-focused messages. And I also write marketing materials for businesses in the senior living sector. So that would be retirement homes, dementia care homes, senior living advisors. I'm also trained as an occupational therapist and urban planner and have over 30 years of experience working with seniors and their families. So if you're wondering whether this presentation is for you today, it is for you if you're a realtor who currently serves seniors or doesn't serve seniors but would like to, or is looking for tips on honing your messaging that could be applied to other types of clients. So what I'm actually going to be presenting today are highlights from a 5-week course that I have taught realtors who are focused on downsizing seniors. And I'll be taking questions and fielding those at the end of the presentation. And what I wanted to do is just to clarify, the focus of this particular webinar is on messaging. So my strength, my skill set is as a writer. So in my course, I help realtors focus in on what is it that they need to say to downsizing seniors and how to say it. So it's about content and language and messages that will resonate with that particular audience. And sometimes, although I focus on writing, the realtors who take my course can take that information and apply it to direct conversations that they're having with some prospective clients. What this is not is actually about what social media platform you should use or other tactics to write seniors. So with that clarified, I'm just going to indicate that, and some of you may be aware of this, that there are specific credentials for realtors who are focused on downsizing seniors. So some of you on the line today may have one or both of these credentials, and they are the Seniors Real Estate Specialist, or SRES, which is actually a National Association of Realtors are the ones who have who put this on, and so even though it's out of the States, it's available to both US and Canadian realtors. And then there's the ASA, or Accredited Senior Agent, and that's specific to Canada. And as I said, I've worked with realtors who have either one of these or sometimes both. And just to clarify, I don't teach these programs, but very often I will work with realtors with these particular credentials. Okay, so just to get a sense of who is listening in here today, I'm going to run a poll. And you should see this question up on your screen right now. So which of the following best describes you? One, you currently serve seniors and you have one or both of these credentials. You currently serve seniors but don't have an SRES or an ASA. I think things just got cut off a little bit here, but either one of those credentials, so you don't have either one of those credentials. You don't serve seniors but would like to, or you don't intend to serve seniors, but you're just looking for tips that you can use for other types of clients. Okay, I'm just going to leave this poll open for a few more seconds, give people a chance to vote. Okay, I'm going to close the poll now and share the results. So let's see. So we've got a pretty big proportion on the line here of people who don't serve seniors but would like to, and some people who currently do but don't necessarily have the credentials, and then after that it would be you currently serve seniors and have the credentials. Okay, that's very helpful to know. Just moving along here. Okay, yes, and if you happen to want to learn more about these particular programs, here are a couple of web addresses that you can use to find the description of the programs. So, as I said, the SRES is the National Association of Realtors in the States, so that's the link to find out about that particular program. If you're not sure which one to choose, there will be the information on the websites, and so read the descriptions. And if you're uncertain what the difference might be between the two, talk to colleagues who might have one or both designations, and that's a good way of finding out. Okay. So what we're really talking about here today during this webinar is that if you are serving seniors or you want to serve seniors, how do you differentiate yourself in a way that feels authentic and doesn't put down other realtors? So you're trying to differentiate yourself, but you want to do it in an authentic and non-salesy and not too much hyped sort of way. And what I'll do is I'm going to break things down into 4 different kind of topics, if you will. One is on the theme of it's about them, not you, especially to begin with. And this is where I'm going to talk about the importance of opening lines. And I'll explain that a little bit more. There's also the importance of focusing in on a particular audience, and that will help you to hone your message. So what I generally tell people is generic messaging isn't particularly effective at attracting downsizing seniors. So you need to be specific with messages that attract them particularly. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. The other thing that's important to realize is that downsizing is different from other moves. So that's something that you need to talk about in your marketing materials. And of course, you need to address in the services that you provide to seniors. And if you don't know how to set up your services in such a way that it deals with some of these issues, then I would suggest that you take one of those credentialing programs. And then the other thing is that most people are reluctant to call you. So I see a lot of businesses and realtors among them who will invite people to give them a call. And sometimes the results are disappointing. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is and what you can do that's different. Okay, time for another poll. Okay, so if you're producing promotional materials right now, and it doesn't necessarily have to be for downsizing seniors, who writes them? So is it you, someone else, or a bit of both? Just to let you know that, as I said, I write for businesses in the senior living industry, and they pay me to write for them. But I realized along the way that there are small businesses and solopreneurs out there who don't have a marketing budget or a marketing department like these businesses that I write for. And so what I did is I looked at, what can I do to help people develop their skills in writing marketing content? And when I pulled together a course on this, I found that realtors were particularly interested. And so now most of my focus is on specifically messaging for realtors who focus on downsizing seniors. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share the results. Okay, yeah. So looks like the vast majority of you write at least some of your own promotional material. And 57% of you, it's a combination of both. Okay. So the first topic area and the first theme is it's about them, not you. And I mentioned the importance of opening lines. I'm using an example here. I like to use examples in my teaching because it makes things more concrete and kind of brings them alive. This is not a realty example, as you can see. It's actually a psychotherapist. And where I got this is I went to the website Psychology Today. And if I were looking for a psychotherapist, this is one place where I could find them. So here's one listing, and this listing is among many that I could scroll through on their site. So Karen Hansen here would be, what I would see here is her picture, her credentials, these few lines, and I just keep scrolling and I see more and more of the same sort of thing for other psychotherapists. So as I'm looking at this, I'm looking, okay, do I want to click and read more of her description? And so she's essentially competing with all the other psychotherapists on the page for my attention. And her opening lines are what I would consider fairly typical. So she starts off by talking about herself, her credentials. I'm a registered psychotherapist with over 18 years working with individuals who are facing mental health disturbances of various kinds. I generally believe we all do our best day to day with the skills we have to manage and so forth. So again, she leads with her credentials. She talks in fairly general terms about the people she serves as people facing mental health disturbances, but that's not awfully specific, right? If I'm looking for a psychotherapist, I go, I don't know, do I have a mental health disturbance, or does this disturbance that I have, is it one that Karen can help me with? So, I think I'm more likely to scroll on to the next psychotherapist to find out about them than to click and learn more. So here's another listing. I believe it was on the same page for another psychotherapist. And he takes a different approach. And I would say his approach is more customer focused. And he says, sometimes people get stuck. Individuals and couples come to me for counseling to talk about a variety of problems, things like conflict in relationships, anxiety, depression, overwhelming stress, abuse, grief, vocational crisis, or anger. So what's different about this? Well, he starts by talking about the problems that he helps people with. He starts, if I am looking for a psychotherapist, I usually have a particular problem or maybe a set of problems. I'm looking for someone who can help me with that. And he has a list here, right? Relationships, anxiety, depression, overwhelming stress. If I see my problem in his list, I'll go, oh, okay, I think this guy may actually be able to help me. And I'm more likely to click and find out more about him. If I don't see my problem on his list, then maybe he's not the person for me, which is fine, right? I can go on to the next person. It saves me time. And it's okay for Mike too, because maybe I'm not the sort of person he's best equipped to serve. And so it's no skin off his nose if I don't click and read more about his description. Okay. So just summarizing here, when someone is reading your opening lines, the question that they're asking themselves is this for me? So what you need to do in your messaging is to start by talking about the problems your client is trying to solve. To describe them in simple language. So just going back to Mike's description here, you see how he says, sometimes people get stuck? That's, the way people actually talk. It's not psychological jargon. And the rest of the language in his description is fairly simple as well. And again, he's very specific, particularly as he lists off problems. So here's another example, and here this is a therapist who's a couple and family therapist who takes a slightly different approach, which I think it can be equally effective. So she says, it's terrifying and heartbreaking to think that this may be the end of your relationship. There is distance and disconnection between you and your partner. You feel alone and desperate to reconnect, but they feel so far away you don't even recognize them anymore. So what is she talking about here? She's talking about the emotional experience that her clients go through, right? It's actually quite visceral in a lot of ways. And if I'm reading this, and this is a situation that I am finding myself in right now, I'll go, hey, she gets what I'm going through. And so again, I'm more likely to find out, learn to, click to find out more about her. And she's already started to form an emotional connection with me in some way. In fact, she may be describing things in a way that I may not have been able to articulate myself. So I think that can be particularly compelling. So reflecting again, from the point of view of that question that the reader is asking, which is this for me? If you can, identify the emotions that they're experiencing. So, when you apply this to downsizing seniors, there are definite emotions that are associated with downsizing. So what are they? You need to tap into those. You show the reader you get what they're going through. And just as it is with Mike's description, it's about them, it's not about you. So, this couples and family therapist isn't talking about her credentials. They're listed there at the top, but in her description, she's talking about that experience that her clients are going through. Okay, time for another poll. Okay, so out of curiosity, roughly what proportion of your clients are seniors? So just choose one. So some realtors I work with focus exclusively on seniors, but the majority have other clients as well. So the proportion varies. And a lot recognize that they need to have special messaging for downsizing seniors because their situations and concerns are different from their other clients. Most realtors will develop a separate stream of content for downsizing seniors, a section of their website or a Facebook group or a separate set of email messages, a seminar, special lead magnets, what have you. But before you write that separate stream of content, you need to understand who you're writing for. And I'm going to focus on how to do that next. Okay, I'm going to close the poll now and share the results. Okay. So, yes. So a good number of you have at least a few clients who are seniors. And there's some who have about half. And then there are some of you who don't necessarily have current clients who are seniors. So very interesting. Okay, so I said, how do you write for that separate stream of content specific for downsizing seniors? And as I said, focusing in on that particular audience will help you hone your message because you're having to be much more specific in terms of the problems that you're helping people deal with that are unique to that downsizing sort of situation. Okay, so the place that you start is really asking yourself, who is your audience? And when we're talking about downsizing seniors, there can be segments within that. And if you look at these pictures on the screen, you can kind of recognize that these are seniors who are in very different sorts of situations. And their reasons for moving might be different, or the places they're looking at moving to may be very different. So what I do, and I do this with all my clients, and I do it with my students as well, because even my clients who are paying me to write for them, sometimes they're not always crystal clear on what they want me to write about. They kind of just have a sense that, oh, well, we need some blog posts. And so where I start in my conversation is, well, okay, let's figure out who your audience is, because sometimes I can describe it in general terms, but digging a little bit deeper can really help in writing content that is really tuned in to what they're concerned about. So some fairly straightforward questions that I ask realtors to begin with when they're trying to figure out, their messaging and who their audience is what parts of the senior market do you serve? So it could be younger seniors who are downsizing, seniors who are moving to a retirement community or long-term care home, estate sales or other, and usually it's a mix. But as you go along and you're talking to, these subgroups, your messages may be a little bit different to each, or what you emphasize might be a little bit different. And then the other question I ask is, what geographic area do you serve? Because you'll need to put that up front. If people are discovering you online, and you cover Brampton, and someone from Calgary who wants to downsize in the Calgary area is finding out about you, well, you don't want to be unclear and then be wasting their time and your time. And what you need to do is to get inside the downsizing senior's head. So that means describing things from their point of view using their language. So don't describe the situation from your point of view using your own language. And how do you do that? Well, if you already have seniors as clients, and you're talking with them, listen to some of the issues as they raise them. Or if you're not currently serving seniors and you just happen to know some who are in that situation of considering downsizing, so this is kind of part of your market research, again, ask them, where are they at in their thinking right now? What are some of the issues that they're thinking about? And pay very close attention to their language. So here are some other questions that I get realtors to ask about the clients they serve. What causes your older clients to move? Why is deciding to sell their property hard for them? And list some of the emotions they might be going through. Remember how we were talking about tapping into emotions is a very effective way, and that's why I asked that particular question. And then one other thing is your message directed at them or their adult children? So for seniors who might be older and have more health problems, and it's the reason that they're moving isn't necessarily so much by choice as it's just factors in their life circumstance that's driving them to move, their adult children may be more involved in. And the sorts of messaging that you provide adult children may be a little bit different. I mean, obviously the problems are the same in terms of the downsizing, but the way that a senior versus an adult child might look at things would be very different. So for the adult child, they're concerned about their aging parent's safety, and that's kind of what's driving everything. Whereas the senior may be much more concerned about retaining some independence, making sure that they're still holding some control over their life and maintaining some dignity. And so you kind of have to start where people are in their thinking. And I think as a realtor, you probably end up trying to bridge that gap in some ways. But when you're talking to seniors versus adult children separately, you may have to kind of start in a different spot. Okay, so here's an example of an opening paragraph. And I would say this is an okay opening paragraph. And let me read this to you. So I'm a realtor in the Kingston area who helps seniors downsize. In addition to selling your current home, I help you through the process of sorting through all the belongings you've probably accumulated over the years. So let's rate this using some of the criteria that I was talking about earlier. So is it about them and not you? Well, kind of, but I see the word I. It's talking about I'm a realtor in the Kingston area. I helped you through the process. But, so I think we could do better here. Does it use simple language and not jargon? Yeah, I think we're good there. Does it identify emotions? No, I don't think it does at all, really. I don't see any emotion words in there or anything that evokes emotions. Does it describe problems from the client's point of view? Well, it talks about, the process of sorting through all your belongings, but it doesn't really go beyond that. So again, I think we could do better. Does it show that you get it? A little bit, but again, think we could do better. And is it specific? Insofar, in what it's talking about, it's fairly specific, but I think there could be a little bit more detail without going, on and on, that will make it more apparent that you are particularly aware of problems associated with downsizing. So here's what I would consider a better opening paragraph. So looking to downsize your current home in the Kingston area, but overwhelmed by the thought of sorting through everything you've accumulated over the years? Deciding what to keep and what to let go of can be excruciating. That's why you need a realtor who'll support you through the often difficult process of getting a home full of memories ready for sale. So, if you apply those same 6 criteria, I think we're doing better here. It's more of a focus on them and their problems than the other example. Simple language and not jargon still. We have some emotion words in here, right? So you might be feeling overwhelmed, deciding what to keep and what to let go can be excruciating. And it very much describes things from the client's point of view. And as a result, I think, the reader will say, oh, okay, you get this experience, partly because you've tuned into some of the emotions, and partly because you're describing things much more specifically. And when you break this apart, you'll look that there are different parts of this opening paragraph, these opening lines that do different things. So in the very opening here, the type of client that you're trying to attract is identified. So you remember how I said, you identify your geographic area, and your geographic area in this example is Kingston, then you're very clear that the sorts of customers that you're trying to attract, in other words, your ideal client, is in the Kingston area. And here's where the problem is stated from the client's point of view. And the end here is really a short, succinct statement of what you do. So as a realtor, you're a realtor who will support them through the often difficult process of getting a home full of memories ready for sale. Even that description of home full of memories can be fairly evocative, right? Because as you start to think about downsizing, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all my stuff? Particularly those things that have a special attachment to. Okay, so the next thing here that I wanted to tackle is downsizing is different from moves earlier in life. So how are they different for a senior? Well, the way real estate works may have changed since they were last in the market. Physically and emotionally, they may be in a very different place than they were when they were younger. They may need help exploring options of where to move or even if to move. So I know some realtors who provide assistance around aging in place. And it might be that certain family members may want to be involved in discussions. So for instance, adult children, can you help them manage that? So those are different ways that downsizing is different from other moves. Another important thing to keep in mind, though, is that some seniors who are looking for a realtor don't understand how their needs are different from younger clients. So they don't really fully understand their problems and needs. They're just thinking, okay, well, all I need a realtor for is to, sell my current home. And when you're serving seniors, you do a lot more than that. In fact, you may be helping them in that lead up to where they're getting their home ready for sale, or even just starting with some of the initial planning of how am I going to approach this. But in order to help them understand that they need to address some of these issues, some of which they may not even be aware, you need to unpack it in your marketing copy. And by doing that, then you're showing why they'd be smart to engage with someone like you as opposed to just any realtor. Okay, so here's an example of some opening lines that point out problems that they may not have considered. So I'll just read this out for you. Are you over 65 and looking to downsize in the Windsor area? Worried whether the proceeds from the sale of your home will cover your future living expenses? Overwhelmed by the prospect of sorting through all your stuff? Concerned whether you'll be able to find a new place that truly feels like home? I'm a realtor who can help you with all of that. That's because I specialize in your type of move. So there are 3 different problems that are listed here, right? Whether the proceeds from the sale of your home will cover your future living expenses, the whole feeling of overwhelm about sorting through your stuff, and about finding a new place. And if I'm reading this, I may not have considered all 3 of these problems. I may not have thought, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought through how the proceeds of the sale of my current house are going to factor into my future living expenses. And by mentioning that problem, you're saying, okay, I can help you with that, even though you may not have already been aware of it. And so, as the reader, I'm thinking, oh, maybe this is something I should be thinking more about. And this particular realtor might be able to help me with that because they've identified this as an issue. Okay. The last theme here, and that is most people are reluctant to call you or to book a free consultation. So this is about your closing, your call to action, the next step that you're asking people to do after they read your marketing copy. And if you just tell them, give me a call, they may be reluctant to do that. So why is that? Well, they're worried that if they call, you'll try to sell them on your services. That's what they're assuming, right? Or they simply don't feel ready to talk with a realtor. They may think, oh, well, if I talk with this realtor, they'll want to list my house tomorrow, and I'm not ready for that. So what can you do instead? Instead of asking them to give you a call, because giving you a call for a lot of people is too big an ask. What you can do instead is offer them free, valuable content. So if you're doing this online, this would basically be a free download, but you can do this in other ways that aren't necessarily online. But I'll list off a few examples. It might take the form of an ebook, or a series of emails, or a checklist. That could either be electronic or paper copy. Could be a report, same thing, either electronic or paper copy. A webinar or a seminar that you're offering, either as a standalone or as part of a panel. So this is, something that you are offering to them that will help them better understand downsizing and the problems that they may face. And of course, what you're going to do with that is make a connection of why they would then be smart once they understand these problems about, why they would want to connect with someone like you who has that expertise in serving downsizing seniors. Okay, so if you were doing this electronically, you may have a landing page that looks something like this. So what's a landing page? Well, essentially what happens is that if you're offering it, here's an example of an ebook, and this is an ebook that I've developed with a number of different realtors, and it's designed to attract people who are just in the process of considering downsizing. So it's called 5 Pro Tips to Downsizing Your Home. So, if someone's using this particular ebook as a way of helping to educate potential clients, it's also a way of getting their contact information from you. So the transaction is this, I will give you this free ebook if you, put down your email address and, push the button. You get it for free, but implicit in that is then you have their contact information. You're able to follow up. So this particular landing page is the place that people go to in order to get that download. So I might be doing something on social media and attracting people's attention, and you might say, oh, well, I've got now this free ebook. If you're interested, press this link, and the link would take you to this landing page. And then, once they fill in their email address, click the button, then this ebook is delivered to them electronically. Now, you don't have to do this electronically. You can, we actually have developed this book so that it can be printed out, so you can do something similar. But I just wanted to show you that really the purpose of these lead magnets is very often to build up your database. Okay, so once they're on your list, now what? Is it okay to say, give me a call? Well, some people might be a little bit more responsive after downloading your information. But what you could do is to follow up with even more valuable information. The reason you might want to do that is that it lets them get to know, like, and trust you. So before they actually have to commit to a face-to-face meeting with you, if you keep providing them with additional information, additional content, this might, again, reinforce, yes, you get what they're going through. Oh, you have some very useful information that could be valuable to them. You're not giving away the store. You're saying, here's some information, but there's kind of more to it than that I can help you with. So what you're trying to get is make them feel more comfortable speaking with you directly, because really where you want to end up is a one-on-one conversation with them. Okay, our last poll. Okay, so this one is, do you currently offer free valuable information, so some form of lead magnet, that's specifically designed to attract, okay, this got cut off, to attract downsizing seniors? So you may have some information that people can download, but what I'm interested in is whether it's specific to downsizing seniors. And remember, the transaction that I'm talking about here is that if you give me this, I will give you this thing in exchange for your contact information. And that could take a variety of different forms, that free information, ebooks, checklists, reports, a series of emails, a webinar, a video, a list of resources, and so on. Okay. So I'll just give a couple more seconds here. Looks like most people have filled out the poll here. Okay, I'm going to close it and share. Okay, so a few of you do have some specific information that you share to attract downsizing seniors, but it's not surprising that a lot of you don't, just given your answers to earlier questions and kind of the proportion of seniors that you currently serve. Okay, great. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to cover in the webinar here today. But now I want to just get you to reflect on, now that you've heard what I had to say, how do you apply this to your practice as a realtor? So here are a few suggestions. One is you can take the information that I provided you today and to start evaluating some of your current messaging. And even though I'm using very specific examples related to downsizing seniors, some of the principles that I'm talking about might be helpful just evaluating your messaging for other client groups as well. What I would encourage you to do is to get crystal clear on who you're writing for. So you can start off with some of those questions that I suggest you ask in terms of focusing in on downsizing seniors, and what sorts of downsizing seniors that you serve, your geographic area, the reasons that people typically have for moving, some of the emotions that are going through, why it's hard for them, that sort of thing. So use those questions, and I hope that might be a good thing for you, a useful exercise. Okay, and then the last thing here is consider what free information you might offer to attract leads. And then developing your skills as a writer. So, a lot of the people that I work with, may not be comfortable writing, or it's not something that they would necessarily consider their strength. But it's a skill that you can develop. And there are a few things to keep in mind when you're working at developing your skill. One is to listen to your clients. So I talked about the importance of market research and talking with either existing clients or clients who kind of fit in that category of group that you might like to serve, and listen closely to the language and the way that they describe things. Their point of view is very important when you need to capture that in your messaging. Again, whether it's in written form or verbal form when you're actually meeting with people, prospective clients later on. Realize that writing is rewriting. So, you will start to develop some messaging, and as you go along and you serve more and more clients, your messaging will probably evolve because you get a better understanding of their points of view and kind of what you can get traction with. And as you're working out your messaging, share it with someone that you trust who can give you feedback. And then evaluate which messages are getting results. So if you're doing that, electronically, there are analytics and various other things that will help you, see things like open rates and click rates and things like that. That can be very useful, but you can do it in low-tech ways as well. So in other words, which are the messages that are seeming to resonate, that people are responding to? Lean into those. And if you've got messages that aren't working as well, do I need to either tweak them or come up with another message that might resonate more with the clients that I'm trying to attract? Okay, so I mentioned that, there are some folks out there who aren't comfortable as writers, and they actually may not be particularly interested in developing their writing skills, or at least spending a lot of energy in doing that. And if you fall into that boat, that's fine, but you need to realize that you still need to be clear on what's important to your audience and what value you offer them. Because if you are asking someone else to write this for you, you need to direct them. You just can't kind of leave it up to them to decide what your value is, because you need to be really, you need to understand that. So this whole process, these sets of questions that I, take realtors through, not just that focus on their audience and profiling their audience, but kind of starting to pick apart what are some of the things that they offer that kind of set them apart from other realtors. That's really important information to convey to the person who's writing material for you, because otherwise they're just kind of guessing and they're off the mark and they may not know that your audience as well as you. So that's why some of this information here today, even if you decide, oh, I'm not as interested in developing my writing skills, some of this is still applicable to you. Okay, what happened here? Jumping around here, hold on a second. Here we go. Okay, so, this is a 1-hour webinar, so I've only been able to cover so much. And so there are some topics that I've skimmed over or didn't cover, and I just quickly list those off. Writing a compelling description of what you do. So I talked about the opening lines, but kind of what comes next. Gathering testimonials. There's a way of doing that that can give you nice, succinct testimonials with a lot of impact, rather than just kind of asking clients to, come up with something completely on their own. Writing effective calls to action. That's the next step that you want people to take. Writing to people who refer you clients. It's a little bit different than writing directly to clients. Creating lead magnets for downsizing seniors, or if you don't want to create them yourself, how can you find lead magnets that are appropriate for that audience? Creating effective landing pages. I've talked a little bit about landing pages. Getting your message across with as few words as possible. So there are going to be certain places, say you're writing a postcard or you're looking for something on your website and you don't want to be too wordy. How do you condense down some of the messaging that you developed in a way that, packs the most punch? And then writing follow-up materials that keeps your leads engaged. And I could go on with other topics, but, these are some of the things that you can certainly learn more about. That's the sort of stuff that I cover in the course that I offer. Okay, so given that I've only been able to cover so much here today, you might be interested in learning more. And here's one way that you can do that. You can download this ebook that I prepared, which is 7 Top Mistakes Realtors Make when Writing Marketing Materials Aimed at Downsizing Seniors. And you can download that by visiting ebook7mistakes.com. Okay, so I think it's time for questions. So Mercedes, can you tell me whether there are any questions that I might be able to answer?
There aren't any questions. Just everybody's asking for a copy of the presentation, which I think you said at the beginning will be available in a few days.
Yeah, so the slides will be available in a few days.
Okay, yeah, that's the only thing that I'm seeing here. There's no other questions.
Okay, and just a sec here. If you want to get in touch with me, here's my contact information. So my email address, as well as my website. So, if you happen to be interested in any of the stuff that I've talked about, one thing that when you go to my website, you'll see is not just kind of how you can hone your messaging, but also I recognize, as I said before, that there are some realtors who aren't as interested in writing their own materials, or only to do that to a limited extent. So that ebook that I mentioned that I've developed, that's meant to attract downsizing seniors, and I developed with a group of realtors who have ASA or SCRS credentials. It's meant it can be used by any realtor who's trying to attract downsizing seniors, and it's something that can be customized to include your particular contact information, your photo, so that might be of interest to you, and that you can find out about on my website as well. Okay, so any last minute question? Anyone come in with a last minute question, Mercedes?
No questions.
Okay, so I hope you're able to apply what I've taught to you today. And certainly if you have any questions, or you just have a particular issue that you wanted to discuss, feel feel free to get in touch with me. Otherwise, have a great rest of the morning and afternoon, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.